Hey, my name is Christian Osmo, and this audit is going to walk you through some strengths and weaknesses your website may have in terms of design and optimization. Just for a bit of background, I've been a web designer for about a decade, web developer. I currently call London home, but I grew up in the West Coast of America. I specialize in something called conversion rate optimization, which means that I build websites that get more subscribers, gather more leads, generally convert better. I'm not here to tell you how good or bad your website is, because those terms are subjective, right? But I will use my data-driven knowledge to tell you what sells and what doesn't, what gets people in the door and what doesn't. So let's go ahead and get started. Basically, this is my website right here, and I will continue on with yours here. So the first thing that I like to take a look at is kind of the visual aspect of it. There's sort of a formula for getting people to convert into customers. To get online people to convert into whatever it is you want. The first thing you have to do is you have to identify what you want out of your website. Now, do you want more people walking in the door? Do you want more people subscribing to your blog? Do you want more people reading your content? What is it that you want? And so for someone like nationalpizzaday.co.uk, I would imagine that you want people buying more pizza, right? And so kind of the formula that I have here is, let me go to the other one, hold on. People generally, they read from left to right, and that's not to say anything bad about other cultures that read from the other way, but statistically speaking, people read from left to right. They go from here to here, and they go from top to bottom, just the same, and they end up somewhere in the middle here. So the kind of the magic formula for getting people to act on your website is to tell them who you are, tell them why they should care, and then tell them to do something. I know that sounds oversimplistic. Now the idea here, this is drop your swap. The idea is you tell them your drop your swap, you tell them why they should care right here, and you try to get them to press this button. Now this button has something like a 90% click-through rate. That doesn't mean that turns into, those all turn into paying customers, but it does mean that we have a pretty high number of people who will click on this button also. So what I'm trying to get them to do is to sign up, right? And so the idea here is you say, okay, this is who we are, this is why you should care, now click this button. And that's what a call to action is. So now with something like, if you can imagine what you could potentially do with like a 90% click-through rate, I mean, the possibilities are limitless. So if you were to do something like here, on here, you could say, I know you're National Pizza Day, okay, fine. But you could say something like, I don't know, the best pizza in all of the UK or something like that. It could be anything. I don't know exactly which one. You want to tell them who you are, National Pizza Day, best pizza in all of UK. Now click here for something. Read on. Now I could imagine it could be something like 50% off your next meal, or 10% off your next meal, or something bigger than that. Now another version of this right here, an older version, is this right here, where it might be more relevant to what you're looking at. So it's kind of the same thing, but instead of a button, you have a submit thing. You put in, say you want them to put in their email address, and that gets them not only on your mailing list, but it also gets them a coupon to come into the store or come into one of the locations. Something along those lines would help you convert a lot better. Now scrolling down, this is good that you have it finish up here. I don't actually know how this looks like on a regular computer. This is obviously a massive screen. But it's good that you have it break up here, because this gets people curious about what's further down. So you scroll, okay, here's the point. This looks good, this looks fine. Scroll, pizza map, cool. Looks like find a restaurant and claim. Not really that relevant to me, but no, this looks good, this looks fine. If you operate a pizza restaurant, want to get involved with National Pizza Day, get in touch. See, I actually went on this without actually realizing what it was. It's not a pizza restaurant, is it? If you operate, maybe what you want to do is say, click here to find out more information, and it scrolls down to, something like this, National Pizza Day. These are locations. I'm not sure exactly. Anyway, so the idea here is that you identify who you are, why the reader should care, and give them something in exchange for an action. So you say, right here, words, button, or email entry, something like that. And you can give them something in exchange, something significant in exchange for their email address, because people actually find that quite valuable. If you can give them free pizza, I think that would get my vote. So cool. This all looks really good. I like that you put this right here. It's a great location for it in association with Fever Tree. Um, this is kind of like a featured in or featured on whatever type of entry here, which I think is great. Copyright. So all venues become a partner. You've got all your information here. This is great. This is fine. And so, yeah, like I said, I'm not going to get into the good or the bad in terms of what looks good and what doesn't, because those are subjective again. But so that's the entire visual aspect of this thing. Now I'm going to go with the technical aspect. So if you look at this right here, this is how long the website took to load, and obviously, and the web page size. This isn't too bad, but what happens as soon as you hit 3 seconds right here, this becomes people aren't really engaged anymore. As soon as you hit 3 seconds, they say around 40% of the people have already hit the back button. So as soon as you hit 3 seconds, you've lost 40% of your customers, potential customers. And those people probably weren't as interested to begin with, so maybe you haven't lost 40% of customers, but you've lost maybe 25% of customers with 40% of traffic. You can go into all those numbers, but the point is that you've lost people on the website as soon as you hit 3 seconds. I mean, as soon as you hit any amount, you've lost some people, but as soon as you hit 3 seconds, that's a significant thing. Now, as soon as you hit 2 seconds, which you did go over 2 seconds, now you're losing traffic because Google doesn't like to see that. That is Google's stated threshold, is 2 seconds. So as soon as it's taking longer than 2 seconds, you're kind of in the territory where Google is saying, okay, we don't think this website has authority anymore. And so one thing that you can do to get that down is to take down your page size, 2.6 megabytes. It's not a big website, but yours is, 2.6 megabytes isn't a lot, but yours is not image heavy or anything. The biggest thing is probably this image right here. And so if you can bring down the size of that image, or of all images in general and of your code more generally, then you're going to have a much easier time speeding up the website. Let me just take a look at, I always just assume it's WordPress because it powers so much of the internet, but it's not. Let me take a look. You've got a CD, that's good, you've got a CDN, cool. Oh, you may have not, let's see. I just want to see what content management system you're using, if you're using one at all. Couldn't, okay, interesting. That could also contribute to the fact that it's so big. 2.6 megabytes is quite large for the actual length. Like I said, it's not that big, but compared to how big the page actually is, I would say it's pretty big. It should definitely be smaller than that. So my first suggestion, I always use WordPress with everything. It's just, it makes things easier, it makes design easier. I use this theme right here. This is, oops. This design, Google loves it. It's actually more of a framework than a theme. I know that we call them themes, but this is, you can make pretty much any website out of this, and Google loves it. And so if you take a look at like my website, for example, it's made using that theme, by the way. You can see that it loads in 784 milliseconds. Under 1 second is ideal. So sometimes you'll get that, sometimes you won't. Just depends on what's on the website. Oh, by the way, I tested this from Stockholm. It's the closest server to London, or to the UK, I mean. And so my server is in, the one that I have here is in London, and so this actually is a little bit faster in the UK. And so that's ideally what you're going to want. You have 568 kilobytes. Which is about one less. I mean, it's a little bit more than 1/5 the size of your website, but it actually has more images. And so I'm not exactly sure why yours is so big. But if you take a look at it, I mean, I've got one big primary image, and then you've got several other smaller ones. And so yeah, so you might have like custom coded your website. I don't know, because you're not using a content management system. But that's what I would suggest. I would suggest stick with WordPress, stick with a theme like Divi, and you will have a better time. It'll be smaller, it'll be cleaner. Google will like it more because it's probably coded better. And yeah, so moving on. It looks like you are doing a lot right, and that's probably just because it's so simple. But let's just continue here. I want to see what's taking up so much of yeah, it's that image is 1.95 megabytes. That's most of your website. If you can just bring the size of this down, you're going to have a much faster website. That's got to be my biggest suggestion. I don't think there's a whole lot more I can say, because the fact that you're not using a content management system means that there's really not a whole lot to clean up. It's just, I mean, that image is the biggest thing. But if you do anything else, I would definitely suggest getting a different host. Let me see if I can see who your host is. Square Up. Registrar is GoDaddy. Registrar is Square Up. Sorry. I want to look at your DNS records. Oh, you're using AWS, which is totally fine. I don't know if you guys have a web developer who did this for you, but AWS is cool to use. The servers are fast. I guess I couldn't tell you exactly where the location of the server is, or I guess, but AWS is good for mostly. It's more for developers, really. I don't know exactly why you're using Amazon servers. Maybe just to be a bit technical, it's more for like online applications. It's not really for single websites. So you guys are using, I guess, a good combination of server plus a CDN, which is cool, but I would use a better CDN. I would use something like these guys, Cloudflare. I think they would speed up your website quite a bit. I would reduce the size of this image. You can do that. I mean, I can show you how to do that right now, actually. Let's see. Actually, I'm just going to go ahead and no, sorry, what do I want to do here? Which placeholder? It'll probably be somewhere up here. Let me just see if I can find it. There it is. Okay. So basically, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to download your background image. Let's see. I mean, you can. First of all, because of the you're not even this is really bad. So you're not even using the full background image. You're only using it up to here. So right off the start, you can just cut that bottom part off. I don't know why you bother having it. But so you have this image. And again, this is to make your website faster. You have this image. It's 1.3 megabytes. I think I said 1.9. No, 1.95 is all of them. Sorry. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you. You're going to cut this image down to something like this. We're going to crop this. Let me see the size right here, 72. You can keep this at 72, although you can also reduce it to something like 60, and then reduce this to something like 1400. And what that's going to do is, initially it's going to look smaller, but as soon as you open it back up, it's actually the same size. And that's because I reduced the resolution also. And so what you immediately you've less than, let's see, so you've reduced 500 kilobytes, which is almost half. So as soon as you've got that, you've got a significant reduction already. But then what I'm going to do is I go to this website called compressor.io. This is a great, you can use WordPress functions for this, but because you're not using a content management system, you do something like this. And what it's going to do is it's going to compress the image. And so we reduce that one down to a further 154 kilobytes. Download your file. And so you basically got this image, and it's down to, what is that, like 1/7 the original size, something like that. And so let me go ahead and just, so here's the new image. I'll show you just to show you the old image here. So this is 1.3 megabytes. This is 154 kilobytes. And now, just to show you the difference between those two, you are reducing the size a little bit, but not so much so that it actually reduces the size in someone's browser. So if you're looking at this on a normal computer, it's not actually reducing the size. And so, I mean, that's going to basically cut your website size in half, just that change. I mean, there are lots more that you can do. There's lots more that you can do. So, I mean, that would be my suggestion. The first thing is to reduce that image size. The next thing I would suggest is to get a content management system like WordPress. You can make these changes a lot faster than with custom code. The third thing I would do is get a different host. Now, Amazon is great. You know, it's whatever. It's Amazon, right? It's not really meant for this type of website. It's more meant for applications. It's meant for hosting, you know, scripts. And so it works, right? But the fact of the matter is you're probably losing traffic. So all of if you do decide to go this route and you don't decide to become one of my clients, I host all of my clients' websites. I optimize it. I make them great. If you don't decide to do that, this is a great host. They're going to be more expensive than Amazon, though probably not by a lot. Amazon's already kind of expensive. This is WP Engine, and it's completely managed, which means that they optimize everything and they put you on a CDN and everything, so you don't need to worry about that kind of stuff. It is a bit expensive, but again, I think Amazon is what, $20 a month, something like that, $20 a month versus $29 a month. It's, you know, really not a huge difference. So anyway, those are my suggestions. I really hope that those helped you. If you want to take it to the next level, that's what I get paid to do. If you're ready for that, let me know.